They say your first real love changes you forever. They don't tell you what happens when that love is forbidden. I was 19, lost, and searching for something I couldn't name. She was 42, trapped in a life she never chose, desperate to feel alive again. We met by a pool on a summer day that felt like any other. But from the moment our eyes locked, I knew my life would never be the same. I tried to fight it. God, I tried. Because she wasn't just older. She wasn't just unavailable. She was my best friend's mother, the one person in the world I should never have fallen for. But love doesn't ask permission. It doesn't wait for the perfect moment. And it definitely doesn't care about rules. This is the story of how I broke every rule I'd ever known. How I lost my best friend. How I destroyed a family. And how, through all the pain and chaos, I discovered what it really means to love someone. They call it forbidden love. I call it the bravest thing I ever did. This is love beyond rules. And this is my truth. The summer I turned 19 was supposed to be about finding myself. Instead, I got lost in ways I never could have imagined. I remember that afternoon like it was burned into my memory. Every detail sharp and vivid, the kind of moment that divides your life into before and after. I was floating in Sophie's backyard pool, my eyes closed against the glare of the June sun, trying to forget everything that had gone wrong in my life. The breakup with my girlfriend 2 weeks earlier. The failing grade in my psychology class. The suffocating feeling that I was supposed to have everything figured out by now. But instead I was drowning in questions I didn't have answers to. The water was cool against my skin, a relief from the oppressive heat. I'd let myself into Sophie's house with a spare key she'd given me years ago, back when we were just two kids who couldn't imagine a world where we weren't best friends. She was at work, her summer job at the bookstore downtown, and I'd needed somewhere to breathe. Somewhere that wasn't my cramped dorm room or my parents' house with all their expectations hanging in the air like humidity. I didn't hear her approach. Maybe that's what made it so powerful. The way her voice cut through my thoughts like a knife through silk. Didn't expect to find you here, Ava. My eyes flew open, and I had to squint against the sun to see her standing at the edge of the pool. Claire. Sophie's mother. I'd known her for years. She was the one who made us grilled cheese sandwiches after school, who drove us to the movies, who never asked too many questions when we came home past curfew. But in that moment, with the sunlight creating a halo around her silhouette, she looked different somehow. Not like Sophie's mom. Like a woman. Just a woman. Mrs. Bennet. I managed, treading water, suddenly very aware that I was in a bikini in her pool without permission. I'm sorry, I should have. Sophie said it was okay to use the pool whenever, but I should have texted first. She smiled, and something about that smile made my stomach flutter in a way I didn't understand. It's Claire, Ava. You've known me long enough to call me Claire. She walked closer to the edge, her sundress, a soft yellow that made her look like she'd captured the sunlight itself, swaying around her legs. And you're always welcome here. You know that. I watched as she sat down on the pool's edge, slipping off her sandals and dipping her feet into the water. Her toes were painted a deep burgundy, and I found myself staring at them, at the way the water created ripples around her ankles. There was something hypnotic about it. Or maybe I was just losing my mind. Rough day, she asked, her voice softer now, almost gentle. I wanted to laugh. Rough day. Rough month. Rough year, rough life. But instead I just nodded, not trusting myself to speak without everything spilling out. All the confusion, the pain, the sense that I was failing at being 19 and supposed to have my life together. Claire tilted her head, studying me with those dark eyes that seemed to see right through my carefully constructed walls. Want to talk about it? Not really, I said, but my voice cracked on the last word, betraying me. She didn't push. That was the thing about Claire, she never pushed. She just waited, patient and present, until you were ready to let her in. It was a skill I wished I had, that ability to make people feel safe enough to be vulnerable. You know, she said after a moment, her gaze drifting across the pool to the fence line where honeysuckle grew wild and sweet-smelling. Sometimes I come out here at night when everyone's asleep. I sit right here and put my feet in the water, and for just a little while I feel free. The word hung in the air between us. Free. It was such a strange thing for her to say. Claire Bennett, with her beautiful house and her successful husband and her perfect daughter. What did she need to feel free from? Free from what? I asked before I could stop myself. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something flicker across her face. Something sad and lonely and real. From being who everyone expects me to be, she said quietly. From playing the part I've been playing for so long, I almost forgot it was a role. My heart was beating too fast. I didn't know why her words affected me so deeply, why they felt like they were reaching into my chest and squeezing. Maybe because I knew exactly what she meant. Maybe because I'd spent my whole life trying to be what my parents wanted, what my friends expected, what society demanded. Maybe because even my sexuality, something I'd thought was my own truth, had become another box to check, another identity to perform. I understand, I whispered. Claire's lips curved into a sad smile. I think you do. She stood up then, the sun catching in her hair, turning it golden at the edges. She was 42, I knew, but in that moment she looked ageless, timeless, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with youth and everything to do with presence. Come inside, she said. I'll make us some lemonade. Unless you need to be somewhere. I should have said yes. I should have made an excuse, grabbed my things and left. But I didn't. No, I heard myself say. I don't need to be anywhere. The kitchen was cool and dim after the bright glare of the pool. I'd wrapped myself in a towel, suddenly self-conscious about dripping water all over the hardwood floors, but Claire didn't seem to care. She moved around the kitchen with an easy grace, pulling glasses from the cabinet, ice from the freezer, a pitcher of fresh lemonade from the refrigerator. Sophie made this yesterday, she said, pouring the pale yellow liquid into 2 tall glasses. She's gotten really good at cooking this summer. I think she's finally realized that she can't live on takeout forever. I smiled at that, thinking of my best friend and her notorious inability to boil water without setting off the smoke alarm. Character growth, I said. Exactly. Claire handed me a glass, and our fingers brushed for just a second. It was nothing. Casual touch. The kind of thing that happens 100 times a day without meaning anything. But I felt it like an electric shock, racing up my arm and straight to my heart. If she felt it too, she didn't show it. She just gestured to the kitchen table, and we sat down across from each other, condensation already forming on the glasses between us. So, she said, taking a sip of her lemonade, do you want to tell me what's really going on? Or should we just sit here and pretend everything's fine? I laughed, surprised by her directness. When did you get so good at reading people? When I spent 20 years being married to someone who never asked how I was really doing, she said, and there was no bitterness in her voice, just a quiet acceptance that made my chest ache. You learn to recognize the signs, the fake smiles. The I'm fine that means anything but. I wrapped my hands around my glass, watching the water droplets slide down the sides. I broke up with my girlfriend, I said finally. Or she broke up with me. I'm not actually sure which one of us said it first. Either way, it's over. I'm sorry, Claire said, and she sounded like she meant it. That's never easy. The thing is, I continued, the words coming faster now like a dam breaking, I don't even know if I'm sad about losing her specifically, or if I'm just sad about losing what I thought we were supposed to be. Does that make sense? Like we were supposed to be this perfect couple, you know? 2 queer girls who found each other in college, who understood each other, who had everything figured out. But it was all just performance. We were performing for each other, for our friends, for ourselves. And when I realized that, I couldn't do it anymore. Claire was quiet for a moment, her fingers tracing patterns in the condensation on her glass. I think, she said slowly, that you're very brave for recognizing that. Most people spend their whole lives performing and never admit it, even to themselves. I don't feel brave, I said. I feel lost. Those 2 things aren't mutually exclusive. She looked up at me, and the intensity in her gaze made me feel like I was the only person in the world. You're young, Ava. You're supposed to be lost. You're supposed to make mistakes and figure out who you are and change your mind 100 times. Don't let anyone, including yourself, Tell you that you're supposed to have it all figured out at 19. What about at 42? I asked, and I don't know what made me say it. Maybe it was the vulnerability she'd shown me by the pool. Maybe it was the way she was looking at me like I mattered. Are you supposed to have it figured out by then? Her laugh was soft and sad. You'd think so, wouldn't you? But the truth is, I'm just as lost as you are. Maybe more so. Because I'm old enough to know that the life I've built isn't the one I wanted. But I'm not sure I'm brave enough to do anything about it. The air in the kitchen felt different suddenly. Charged. Heavy with things unsaid. I wanted to ask her what she meant, what life she'd wanted instead, what was stopping her from having it. But before I could, we heard the sound of a key in the front door. I'm home. Sophie's voice echoed through the house. Mom. You here? Claire's expression shifted so quickly it was like watching a mask slide into place. The vulnerable woman who'd been sitting across from me disappeared, replaced by the pleasant, composed mother I'd always known. In the kitchen, honey, she called out. Sophie appeared in the doorway, her bookstore name tag still pinned to her shirt, her curly hair escaping from its ponytail. Ava, I didn't know you were here. She grinned at me. Using the pool without me. Rude. Sorry, I said, forcing a smile. It was a spontaneous decision. Well, you're staying for dinner, right? Sophie grabbed a glass and poured herself some lemonade. Mom's making her famous pasta. I glanced at Claire, who was already standing, moving toward the refrigerator. Of course she is, she said, and her voice was perfectly normal, perfectly cheerful. Ava, you should stay. We'd love to have you. I should have said no. I should have made up an excuse about homework or another commitment. But I looked at Claire, and for just a second our eyes met, and I saw that same intensity from before, that same vulnerability before she looked away. Sure, I said. I'd love to. That dinner was the first of many. Over the next few weeks, I found myself at Sophie's house more and more often. I told myself it was because Sophie and I were best friends, because I needed the escape from my own life, because the Bennett house felt more like home than anywhere else. And all of that was true. But it wasn't the whole truth. The whole truth was that I couldn't stop thinking about Claire. It started small. I'd noticed the way she laughed at Sophie's jokes, her whole face lighting up with genuine joy. The way she hummed while she cooked, some old song I didn't recognize, but that sounded like contentment. The way she'd touch my shoulder when she passed behind my chair, just a brief pressure of her hand that made my skin tingle. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was projecting my own confusion onto an innocent friendship, that Claire was just being kind, maternal even, and I was turning it into something it wasn't because I was young and stupid and didn't know how to separate gratitude from attraction. But then there were moments that made me question everything. Like the afternoon when Sophie had to run out to pick up her paycheck, leaving Claire and me alone in the living room with old photo albums spread across the coffee table. We'd been laughing at pictures of Sophie as a kid, gap-toothed and wild-haired. So different from the composed young woman she was now. She was always so fearless, Claire said, her fingers tracing the edge of a photo. Always climbing trees she was too small for. Always making friends with the biggest dogs. Always diving into the deep end before she could really swim. She smiled, but there was something wistful in it. I used to be like that, I think. Before I learned to be careful. What changed, I asked. She was quiet for a long moment, flipping through pages of memories. Life, she said finally. Expectations. The weight of other people's needs. She looked up at me. Sometimes I wonder who I'd be if I'd chosen differently. If I'd been braver. Braver how? Her eyes held mine, and I couldn't breathe. Braver about what I wanted, she said softly. About who I am. About. She trailed off, and I saw her swallow hard. About a lot of things. The front door opened. I'm back. Sophie called out, and whatever spell had been woven between us shattered like glass. Claire stood up quickly, smoothing down her skirt. Great, she said, her voice bright and false. Who wants tea? I went home that night and lay awake for hours, staring at my ceiling, trying to understand what was happening to me. I'd dated girls before. I'd had crushes, relationships, heartbreaks. I knew what attraction felt like. But this was different. This was dangerous. Because Claire wasn't just older. She wasn't just my best friend's mother. She was married. She had a life. She was off limits in every possible way. And yet I couldn't stop thinking about the way she'd looked at me. The things she'd said about being brave, about wanting something different. The way her hand felt on my shoulder. The way she saw me, really saw me, in a way no one else did. I tried to stay away. For 3 whole days, I avoided Sophie's house, making excuses about homework and family obligations. But it only made things worse. The wanting grew sharper in her absence, more urgent, more impossible to ignore. On the 4th day, Sophie texted me. "Mom keeps asking about you. Are you okay?" My hands shook as I typed back. "Yeah, just busy, sorry. Come over tomorrow," she wrote. "I miss you." I stared at the message for a long time. I could keep making excuses. I could protect myself, protect Claire, protect the fragile piece of my life. Or I could be honest about what I wanted, even if I couldn't have it. "Okay," I typed, "I'll be there." The next afternoon, I showed up at Sophie's house with my heart in my throat. Sophie answered the door with a grin, pulling me into a hug. "Finally. I thought you'd been abducted by aliens or something." "Just drowning in summer reading," I lied. "You know how Professor Morrison is." "A tyrant," Sophie agreed, leading me inside. "Mom's in the garden. She's been out there all morning planting tomatoes or something. I swear she's going through some kind of midlife crisis. Next thing you know, she'll be buying a motorcycle." The image of Claire on a motorcycle made me smile despite my nerves. "That I'd like to see." "Right. Go say hi. I have to finish a paper that's due tomorrow because I'm an idiot who procrastinates." Before I could protest, Sophie was already heading upstairs to her room. I stood in the hallway, my heart pounding, knowing I should follow her, knowing I should avoid being alone with Claire. But my feet carried me toward the back door, toward the garden, toward her. She was kneeling in the dirt, her hands covered in soil, her hair tied back with a bandana. She looked younger, like this, more relaxed, more herself. When she heard me approach, she looked up, and the smile that spread across her face made my knees weak. "Ava," she said, and my name on her lips sounded like a prayer. "I was starting to think you'd forgotten about us." "Never," I said, and it came out too intense, too honest. She stood, brushing dirt from her knees. "I'm a mess," she said, gesturing to herself. "Give me a minute to wash up?" I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. I watched her walk toward the house, and then I sank down onto the garden bench, trying to calm my racing heart. When she came back out, her hands clean and her hair loose around her shoulders, she was carrying 2 bottles of water. She handed me one and sat down beside me, close enough that I could smell her perfume, something light and floral that made me dizzy. "So," she said, "you've been avoiding me." I nearly choked on my water. "What?" "Don't." Her voice was gentle but firm. "Don't pretend, Ava. I'm too old for games, and you're too smart for lies." She turned to face me fully. "You've been avoiding me. And I think I know why." My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. "Claire." "It's okay," she interrupted. "Whatever you're feeling, whatever this is between us, it's okay to acknowledge it." "It's not okay," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "None of this is okay. You're married. You're Sophie's mom. I'm a woman," she said quietly. "A woman who's been sleepwalking through her life for 20 years. A woman who's been pretending to be content with a marriage that died a long time ago. A woman who's finally feeling something real for the first time in." She trailed off, shaking her head. "I don't even know how long." I couldn't breathe. "What are you saying?" She reached out, and I thought she was going to touch me, but instead, her hand hovered in the air between us, trembling. "I'm saying that I see you, Ava. I see you, and you see me, and that's terrifying and beautiful and completely impossible. But it's real." Tears were burning in my eyes. "We can't," I whispered. "We can't do this." "I know." She let her hand drop. I know we can't. But I can't lie to you either. I can't pretend I don't feel this. I won't do that to you. We sat there in silence, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on us. In the distance, I could hear a lawnmower, birds singing, the normal sounds of a summer afternoon. But nothing felt normal. Everything had shifted, tilted, become something new and frightening. What do we do? I asked finally. Claire's laugh was soft and sad. I don't know. I've never been here before. She looked at me, and the pain in her eyes mirrored my own. Maybe we just see what happens. Maybe we take it one day at a time. Maybe we're careful and honest and we don't lie to ourselves about what this is. And what is this? I needed to hear her say it. She took a shaky breath. It's the beginning of something. Or the end of everything. I don't know which yet. The back door opened and Sophie stuck her head out. Are you guys coming in? It's getting hot out there. Claire stood up quickly, her mask sliding back into place. We're coming, sweetheart, she called. Then quieter, just to me. To be continued. I followed her inside, my mind spinning, my heart breaking and soaring at the same time. Because she'd said it. She'd admitted it. This wasn't just in my head. This was real. And real meant dangerous. Real meant consequences. Real meant that everything I thought I knew about myself was about to change. The next few weeks existed in a strange kind of limbo. I was at Sophie's house constantly, but Claire and I were never quite alone. There were always other people around. Sophie, Claire's husband David when he was home from his business trips, neighbors dropping by, friends coming over for dinner. We were careful, we were good. But the tension was always there, thrumming beneath the surface like a live wire. Every time our hands brushed, passing dishes at dinner. Every time our eyes met across a crowded room. Every time I heard her laugh, saw her smile, watched her exist in the world. I was falling. No, I'd already fallen. I was just waiting to hit the ground. It was a Wednesday afternoon in late July when everything changed. Sophie had picked up an extra shift at work. Someone had called in sick, and she needed the money. I'd been planning to go home, but Claire had asked if I could help her move some boxes from the attic. Just a favor, nothing more. But the favors between us were never simple anymore. We were in the guest room, surrounded by cardboard boxes and old memories. Claire was sorting through clothes she'd saved from college, laughing at the fashion choices of her younger self. "Can you believe I wore this?" she asked, holding up a flannel shirt covered in patches and pins. "I thought I was so rebellious." "You were," I said. "You are." She looked at me sharply. "What makes you say that?" "Because you're here," I said. Still questioning, still wondering, still fighting against the life that was prescribed for you. I moved closer. "That's rebellion, Claire. Even if no one else sees it." She set down the shirt, her hands trembling slightly. "Ava," she said, and there was a warning in her voice, a plea. "I can't do this anymore," I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. "I can't pretend that I don't feel what I feel. I can't keep acting like being around you doesn't make my heart race. I can't." My voice broke. "I can't keep wanting something I can't have. Ava, tell me you don't feel it too," I said desperately. "Tell me I'm imagining it, that I'm just some stupid kid with a crush, and I'll leave. I'll never come back. I'll let Sophie think we had a fight, and I'll move on and we'll never talk about this again. But you have to tell me. You have to say it." Claire stood there, frozen, her eyes filling with tears. "I can't," she whispered. "Can't what?" "I can't tell you that. Because it would be a lie." She took a step toward me, then stopped herself. "Everything you're feeling, I'm feeling it too. The wanting, the fear. The impossibility of it all. I lie awake at night thinking about you. I make excuses to see you. I count the minutes until you walk through that door." A tear slid down her cheek. "I haven't felt this alive in 20 years, Ava. And it's terrifying." I closed the distance between us without thinking, my hands reaching for her face. "Then don't be afraid," I whispered. "Just for a moment. Just let yourself." Ava, we can't. But she didn't pull away. Her hands came up to cover mine, holding them against her cheeks. If we cross this line. We already have, I said. The moment you admitted you felt it too. The line is already crossed. She closed her eyes, leaning into my touch. This is wrong. I know. This will hurt people. I know. We should stop. I know. I moved closer until I could feel her breath on my face. But I don't want to. For a long moment we stood there, balanced on the edge of something irreversible. I could see the war in her eyes. Duty versus desire, should versus want. And then, so slowly it felt like the world was moving through honey, she leaned in. Our lips were inches apart when we heard it. The front door opening. Sophie's voice calling out, "Mom? I'm home. They sent me home early because it's dead." We jumped apart like we'd been burned, the spell shattered. Claire's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with horror. "Oh God," she breathed. "Oh God, Ava, we almost." "I know." My heart was pounding so hard I felt sick. "I know. You should go," she said, backing away from me. "Please. Before I do something we both regret." "Would you regret it?" I asked, needing to know. She looked at me with such raw pain that it took my breath away. "Every day for the rest of my life," she said. "And I'd still want to do it again." I left through the back door while Claire went to greet Sophie, my hands shaking, my mind reeling. We'd almost kissed. We'd been seconds away from crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed. And the worst part, the absolutely terrifying part, was that I knew it was going to happen eventually. Not if, but when. Because this thing between us, whatever it was, had grown too big to contain. It was a wildfire, and we were running out of ways to fight it. That night, lying in my bed, I got a text from an unknown number. My hand shook as I opened it. "I got your number from Sophie's phone, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for all of this. But I can't stop thinking about you. I don't know what to do." I stared at the message for a long time, my thumbs hovering over the keyboard. I could end it right here. I could tell her we needed to stop, that we were playing with fire, that someone was going to get burned. But instead I typed, "Me neither. But I don't want to stop." Her response came seconds later. "Neither do I. And that's the problem. What do we do?" There was a long pause, and I watched the typing indicator appear and disappear several times before her message finally came through. "We be careful. We don't rush. We figure this out together, if that's what you want." "It is," I typed. "It's what I want." "Then that's what we'll do," she wrote. "One day at a time. One moment at a time. Until we know what this is." I fell asleep with my phone clutched in my hand. Her words echoing in my mind. One day at a time. One moment at a time. But moments have a way of adding up. And days have a way of running out. And somewhere deep down I knew that no matter how careful we were, no matter how slow we took it, this was always going to end in heartbreak. I just didn't know whose heart would break first. The days that followed our almost kiss existed in a strange, suspended reality. Claire and I texted constantly. Careful, coded messages that could have been innocent if anyone read them, but that carried the weight of everything we couldn't say out loud. We were dancing around the truth, circling it like moths around a flame, knowing we were going to get burned but unable to stay away. I saw her differently now. Every interaction was charged with meaning. When she handed me a plate at dinner, I felt the electricity of her fingers brushing mine. When she laughed at something Sophie said, I watched her face and wondered what she looked like when she was truly happy. When she left a room, I counted the seconds until she came back. It was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. Sophie noticed something was different, but she couldn't figure out what. "You've been weird lately," she said one afternoon as we lounged by the pool. "Are you okay? Is it about your ex?" "I'm fine," I lied, watching Claire through the kitchen window as she prepared lunch. "Just trying to figure out what I want, you know?" "Yeah, I get that." Sophie rolled onto her stomach, squinting at me through the sunlight. "But you know you can talk to me about anything, right? That's what best friends do." Guilt twisted in my stomach like a knife. Best friends. I was lying to my best friend about wanting her mother. What kind of person did that make me? I know, I said softly. I promise if there's anything I need to talk about, you'll be the first person I tell. Another lie. They were piling up now, becoming easier with each one. That scared me almost as much as my feelings for Claire did. It was late on a Saturday night when everything began to unravel. David was away on business. He seemed to be away more often than not these days. And Sophie had gone to bed early, exhausted from a double shift. Claire and I were alone in the living room, pretending to watch a movie but really just existing in each other's presence. She was sitting on one end of the couch, I was on the other, and the space between us felt like an ocean. I wanted to cross it so badly my body ached with it. Ava, she said quietly, not looking at the screen. We need to talk about what's happening here. My heart stuttered. Okay. She finally turned to face me, and the vulnerability in her eyes made it hard to breathe. I've been thinking about this constantly. About you, about us, about what we're doing. She paused, choosing her words carefully. I'm married, I have a daughter. I have a life that people depend on. And yet all I can think about is how you make me feel alive in a way I haven't felt in decades. Claire. Let me finish, she said gently. Please. Because if I don't say this now, I might never have the courage again. She took a shaky breath. My marriage has been over for years. David and I are roommates at best, strangers at worst. We stay together because it's easier than facing the truth, because we're both too scared to blow up our lives. But meeting you, knowing you, it's made me realize that I can't keep living like this. I can't keep pretending to be someone I'm not. What are you saying? I whispered. I'm saying that I want you, she said, and the raw honesty in her voice broke something open in my chest. I want you in ways that are completely inappropriate and probably wrong and definitely complicated. But I can't deny it anymore. I don't want to deny it. I moved across the couch without thinking, closing the distance between us. I want you too, I said. I've wanted you since that first day by the pool. Maybe even before that. I don't know anymore. Her hand came up to cup my cheek, and I leaned into her touch like a flower turning toward the sun. You're so young, she murmured. You have your whole life ahead of you. You shouldn't be wasting it on a 42-year-old woman with more baggage than an airport. You're not baggage, I said fiercely. You're real, you see me, you understand me in ways no one else does. How is that a waste? Because I'm Sophie's mother, she said, and pain flashed across her face. Because no matter what happens between us, that fact will always complicate everything. She's your best friend, Ava. If she finds out, then we'll deal with it, I interrupted. Together. But I can't walk away from this. I can't walk away from you. She searched my eyes for a long moment, and I could see her resolve crumbling. If we do this, she said slowly, if we really do this, we have to be honest. No more half-truths. No more pretending. We owe each other that much. Yes, I breathed. Anything. And we have to be careful. Not because I'm ashamed of what I feel for you, but because there are people who will get hurt. Sophie, David, we need to figure out how to do this without destroying everyone around us. I understand. She leaned forward, her forehead resting against mine. I've never done anything like this before, she whispered. I've been the good wife, the good mother, the good daughter. I've followed every rule, met every expectation. This is the first time I've ever chosen something just because I wanted it. Then choose it, I said. Choose me. Choose us. And she did. Our first kiss happened there on the couch, with the television still playing in the background and the rest of the world asleep. It was soft and hesitant at first, both of us afraid to break the spell. But then Claire's hands tangled in my hair and I pulled her closer, and suddenly there was nothing hesitant about it. It was desperate and real and absolutely right. When we finally pulled apart, both breathless, Claire's eyes were shining with tears. I've been so lonely, she whispered. For so long. I forgot what it felt like to be wanted. To be seen. I see you, I promised. Every part of you. We stayed on that couch for hours, talking and kissing and learning about each other. She told me about her marriage. How she and David had married young because it was expected. How they'd grown into different people but stayed together out of habit and fear. She told me about dreams she'd abandoned. About the woman she used to be before she learned to be small and quiet and acceptable. And I told her everything. About my breakup and my confusion about who I was supposed to be. About the pressure I felt to have everything figured out. About how being with her made me feel like I was finally becoming myself instead of whoever everyone else wanted me to be. "You're extraordinary," she said, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "You're brave and honest and so full of life. Don't ever let anyone make you feel like you need to be less than you are." "You make me want to be brave," I said. "You make me want to stop hiding." The clock on the wall read 2 in the morning when we finally forced ourselves apart. Claire walked me to the door, and we stood there in the darkness, reluctant to let go. "When will I see you again?" I asked. "Sophie has plans tomorrow afternoon," she said. "She's going to the beach with some friends. You could come by. We could actually talk. Figure out what we're doing." "I'll be here," I promised. She kissed me one more time, soft and sweet. "Drive safe. Text me when you get home." "I will." I floated home on a cloud, my lips still tingling, my heart so full it felt like it might burst. This was real. Claire wanted me. We were going to figure this out together. I should have known it was too good to last. The next afternoon, I showed up at Claire's house at exactly 2 o'clock, my stomach fluttering with anticipation. She answered the door in jeans and a simple white t-shirt, her hair down and her face free of makeup, and she'd never looked more beautiful. "Hi," she said softly, and the way she looked at me made my knees weak. "Hi yourself." She pulled me inside and kissed me before the door even closed, and I lost myself in the taste of her, the feel of her hands on my waist, the soft sound she made against my lips. This was what I'd been waiting for my whole life without knowing it. We spent the afternoon on the back patio, talking about everything and nothing. Claire told me about her plans to go back to school, something she'd always wanted to do but had put off for her family. I told her about my dreams of traveling, of writing, of living a life that wasn't mapped out by someone else's expectations. "I want to see the world with fresh eyes," I said. "I want to experience things without filtering them through what I'm supposed to think or feel." "That's beautiful," Claire said. "And you should do it. Promise me you won't let anything or anyone hold you back from that." "Not even you?" I asked. She smiled sadly. "Especially not me. You have so much life ahead of you, Ava. I won't be the reason you miss out on it." "You could come with me," I said impulsively. "We could go together. Start over somewhere new where no one knows us." "Ava, I know it's crazy," I interrupted. "I know it's fast and complicated and probably impossible. But why not? You said you wanted to be brave. So let's be brave together." She pulled me close, kissing my forehead. "One step at a time," she murmured. "First, I need to talk to David. I need to tell him that I want a divorce. That part isn't about you. It's about me finally being honest about what I need. But it's still going to be messy and difficult." "And Sophie?" I asked quietly. Claire's expression clouded. "That's the part I'm most afraid of. She's going to feel betrayed. By both of us. And I don't know how to make that okay." "We'll figure it out," I said, wishing I believed it. "She loves us both. Eventually she'll understand." But even as I said it, doubt gnawed at me. Would Sophie understand? Would she ever forgive us for this? We were so lost in each other that we didn't hear the car pull up. Didn't hear the front door open. Didn't hear footsteps approaching until it was too late. "Mom, are you out here?" We sprang apart but not fast enough. Sophie stood in the doorway to the patio, her beach bag still slung over her shoulder. Her face frozen in confusion as she tried to process what she was seeing. "Sophie," Claire breathed, standing up. "I thought you were at the beach." "The plans got cancelled," Sophie said slowly, her eyes moving between us. "Jessica's car broke down." She took a step forward. "Why were you guys sitting so close? And why do you both look so guilty?" My heart was hammering so hard I thought I might pass out. This wasn't how this was supposed to happen. We were supposed to have time to figure things out, to find the right words, to prepare her. Sweetheart, Claire said gently. Let's go inside. We need to talk. About what? Sophie's voice was rising now, panic creeping in. What's going on? Ava, why are you here? I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. What could I possibly say? Claire took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. Sophie, I need you to listen to me. And I need you to know that what I'm about to tell you has nothing to do with you. You did nothing wrong. You're scaring me, Sophie whispered. Your father and I. Claire paused, choosing her words carefully. Our marriage has been over for a long time. We've been staying together out of habit, but we're not happy. I'm not happy. And I've realized that I need to make some changes in my life. Sophie's face went pale. You're getting divorced. I think so, yes. But that's not. Claire glanced at me, and I saw the war in her eyes. She was trying to protect me, trying to shoulder all the blame. But I couldn't let her do that. It's my fault, I said, my voice shaking. Sophie, I'm so sorry, but I need you to know the truth. Your mom and I. We've become close, really close, and we. Close how? Sophie interrupted, but I could see in her eyes that she already knew. She just needed to hear us say it. I have feelings for her, Claire said quietly. Romantic feelings. And she has feelings for me. It's not something either of us planned or wanted to happen. But it did. The silence that followed was deafening. Sophie stood there, her face cycling through emotions too fast to track. Confusion, disbelief, hurt, anger, betrayal. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. You're together. You and Ava. My best friend and my mother. Sophie, I started. No. She held up a hand, backing away from both of us. No, this isn't happening. This can't be happening. Ava, you're my age. You're my best friend. And you, Mom, you're married. You're supposed to be the adult here. I know how this looks, Claire said, tears streaming down her face. And I know I've hurt you. But Sophie, I need you to understand that my feelings for Ava don't change how much I love you. You're my daughter. You'll always be my daughter. But I'm not good enough to be honest with. Sophie's voice cracked. How long has this been going on? How long have you been lying to me? It's new, I said desperately. We only just admitted how we felt. We were going to tell you. We were trying to figure out how. By sneaking around behind my back. She laughed bitterly. God, all those times you came over, all those dinners, all those nights you stayed late. You were with her. While I thought you were my friend, you were sleeping with my mother. It's not like that, Claire protested. Ava and I haven't. I don't want to know. Sophie shouted. I don't want to know any of the details. I just want. Her voice broke completely. I just want my best friend back. I want my mother back. I want my family back. I moved toward her, my hand outstretched. Sophie, please. You're still my best friend. That hasn't changed. I never meant to hurt you. She jerked away from me like I'd burned her. Don't touch me, don't. I can't even look at you right now. She turned to her mother. And you. I can't believe you would do this. I can't believe you'd risk our entire family for some midlife crisis. It's not a crisis, Claire said firmly. It's me finally being honest about who I am and what I want. I know that's hard for you to understand right now, but someday I hope you'll see that I did this because I needed to, not because I was trying to hurt you. Well, congratulations, Sophie said coldly. You've succeeded in destroying everything. Dad's going to be devastated. Our family is over. And for what? So you can play out some fantasy with my friend. She looked at me with such contempt that I felt it like a physical blow. I hope she's worth it. Sophie. Claire reached for her daughter, but Sophie backed away. I need to get out of here, she said. I need to think. I need to not be around either of you right now. Where are you going? Claire asked, panic in her voice. Anywhere but here. Sophie grabbed her keys from the counter. Don't follow me. Don't call me. Just leave me alone. The door slammed behind her, and then it was just Claire and me, standing in the wreckage of what we'd done. Claire sank into a chair, her face in her hands. Oh God, she breathed. Oh God, what have we done? I knelt beside her, my own tears falling freely now. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, this is all my fault. If I hadn't come here, if I hadn't pushed. No. She looked up at me, her eyes red but determined. Don't do that. Don't take all the blame. I made my choice. We both did. And now we have to deal with the consequences. She hates us, I whispered. She hates us right now, Claire corrected gently. But she's hurt and shocked and overwhelmed. Give her time. She'll come around. How can you be sure? Because she's my daughter and I know her. She's strong and compassionate and fair. Once the initial shock wears off, once she has time to process, she'll be willing to listen. Claire wiped her eyes. But it's going to take time. And it's going to be hard. I nodded, trying to believe her. But deep down I was terrified that Sophie would never forgive us. That we'd destroyed our relationship for something that might not even last. As if reading my mind, Claire pulled me close. Whatever happens, she said softly, I don't regret this. I don't regret you. I know that's selfish, and I know it doesn't make the pain any less, but I need you to know that. I don't regret it either, I whispered against her shoulder. Even if Sophie never speaks to me again, even if this all falls apart, I don't regret choosing you. We held each other while the sun set outside. Two people caught in the wreckage of their own making, hoping against hope that love would be enough to carry us through. The next few days were the hardest of my life. Sophie refused to answer my calls or respond to my texts. Claire said she was staying with a friend, that she needed space to process everything. David came home early from his business trip, and Claire sat him down and told him everything. About the state of their marriage, about wanting a divorce, about me. She called me afterward, her voice exhausted. He took it better than I expected, she said. He admitted he'd known for years that we weren't happy. He's hurt, but he's not angry. We're going to see a lawyer next week to start the paperwork. And Sophie? I asked. Claire was quiet for a moment. She's talking to me at least. But it's strained. He says she needs time. That she's not ready to see you yet. Each word felt like a knife to my heart. I understand. Ava, I know this is hard. I know you're hurting. But we have to give her space. We have to let her work through this at her own pace. What if she never forgives me? The question that had been haunting me for days finally escaped. What if I've lost her forever? Then we'll deal with that when it happens, Claire said gently. But I don't believe it will come to that. Sophie loves you. That doesn't just disappear overnight. I wanted to believe her. I tried to believe her. But the silence from my best friend was deafening. A week passed. Then two. I threw myself into my summer classes, trying to distract myself from the ache in my chest. Claire and I talked every day, but we didn't see each other. She was dealing with David, with lawyers, with the complicated business of untangling a 20-year marriage. And I was trying to give Sophie the space she needed, even though it was killing me. Then, 3 weeks after Sophie found out, I got a text from her. Can we meet? Just you and me. I'm ready to talk. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type back. Yes. Anywhere, anytime. Coffee shop on Main Street. Tomorrow at 2. I'll be there. I didn't sleep that night. I rehearsed what I would say 1,000 times, trying to find the words that would make Sophie understand, that would earn her forgiveness. But every version felt inadequate. The next afternoon, I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early, my stomach in knots. When Sophie walked in, I barely recognized her. She looked tired, older somehow, like the last few weeks had aged her years. Hi, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. Hi. My voice came out as a whisper. We sat in awkward silence for a moment, neither of us knowing where to start. Finally, Sophie took a deep breath. I've spent the last 3 weeks being angry, she said. Angry at you, angry at my mom, angry at the universe for turning my life upside down. And you know what I realized? I shook my head, afraid to speak. I realized that being angry wasn't changing anything. You and my mom are still together. My parents are still getting divorced. My best friend still betrayed me. She paused, her eyes filling with tears. But being angry isn't going to bring back the life I thought I had. It's gone, and I have to figure out how to move forward. Sophie, I'm so sorry, I said, my own tears falling. I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted any of this to happen. I know. She wiped her eyes. And that's what makes it so hard, because I know you didn't do this to hurt me. You did it because you fell in love with my mother, as completely insane as that sounds. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. My best friend is in love with my mom. That's my reality now. I understand if you can't forgive me, I said quietly. I understand if you never want to see me again. But I need you to know that you're still one of the most important people in my life. Losing you has been. I couldn't finish. The words were too painful. Sophie was quiet for a long moment, studying me. I'm not ready to forgive you yet, she said finally. I'm not ready to be okay with any of this. But I'm also not ready to lose my best friend completely. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand briefly before pulling away. So here's what I propose. We take this slow. We rebuild our friendship from the ground up. No more secrets, no more lies. If you're going to be with my mom, then I need to be able to trust you. Hope bloomed in my chest. I can do that. I promise. And Ava. She looked at me seriously. If you hurt her, if you break her heart, if this turns out to be some phase or experiment or whatever, I will never forgive you. She's my mother. She's putting everything on the line for you. Don't make her regret it. I won't, I promised. I love her, Sophie. I know it's complicated and messy and probably crazy, but I love her. Sophie nodded slowly. I can see that. And believe it or not, I can see how happy she is with you. Happier than I've ever seen her with my dad. She sighed. I just wish it wasn't so complicated. Me too. We talked for another hour, slowly beginning to rebuild the bridge that had been burned. It wasn't perfect. There were still awkward silences and painful moments. But it was a start. As we were leaving, Sophie stopped me. For what it's worth, she said, I do want you both to be happy. Even if it's going to take me a while to be comfortable with how you found that happiness. I hugged her, and after a moment's hesitation, she hugged me back. Thank you, I whispered, for giving me another chance. Don't waste it, she said. I called Claire as soon as I got home, and she answered on the first ring. How did it go? She's willing to try, I said, relief flooding through me. It's not perfect, but it's something. I heard Claire exhale shakily. Thank God. I've been worried sick. Can I see you? I asked. I've missed you so much. I've missed you too. Come over tomorrow. David's moved out, and Sophie's staying with him for now. We'll have the house to ourselves. The next afternoon, I pulled up to the Bennett house with a mixture of nervousness and excitement. Everything was different now. The secrets were out. The lies were over. This was real. Claire answered the door, and for a moment we just looked at each other. Then she pulled me inside and kissed me, deep and desperate, making up for the weeks we'd been apart. God, I missed you, she breathed against my lips. I missed you too. I pulled back to look at her. Are you okay? Really okay? She nodded, leading me to the living room where we'd shared our first kiss. It's been hard. The divorce is messy, and Sophie is still processing everything. But I'm free, Ava. For the first time in my life, I'm making choices for myself. And that's terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. We spent the afternoon talking about everything that had happened, about the road ahead, about what came next. Claire was planning to go back to school in the fall to finish her degree. I still had 2 more years of college. We lived in different worlds in so many ways, but somehow we fit. I know this isn't going to be easy, Claire said as we sat curled up together on the couch. There are going to be people who judge us, who don't understand. My friends have already started taking sides. Some of them think I'm having a mental breakdown. Are you? I asked, only half joking. She laughed. Maybe, but if I am, it's the best breakdown I've ever had. She kissed my forehead. You make me feel alive, Ava. You make me believe that it's never too late to become who you're meant to be. You do the same for me, I said. Before I met you, I was so lost. I was trying to fit into these boxes that other people had built for me. But with you, I can just be myself. Then let's make a promise, she said, taking my hands. Let's promise that no matter what happens, no matter how hard this gets, we'll always be honest with each other. We'll always choose bravery over comfort. We'll always choose love, even when it's complicated. I promise, I said, sealing it with a kiss. As the sun set outside, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I realized that this was what I'd been searching for all along. Not a perfect love story, not something easy or simple, but something real. Something that challenged me to be braver, stronger, more honest than I'd ever been before. Claire and I were building something new from the ashes of what came before. It was messy and complicated and absolutely unconventional, but it was ours. And that made it worth every risk, every pain, every consequence. As we sat there together, watching the day fade into night, I thought about the girl I'd been just a few months ago. Lost and confused, floating in a pool, searching for something she couldn't name. And I thought about who I was becoming. Someone brave enough to love beyond rules, beyond expectations, beyond fear. This was my story, our story, and it was just beginning. Whatever happened next, whether Sophie fully forgave us, whether society accepted us, whether this love lasted forever or just for now, I knew I would never regret choosing it. Choosing her, choosing us, because some loves are worth breaking the rules for. Some loves are worth the fight. And this love, complicated and impossible as it was, had become the truest thing I'd ever known. The summer that started with me lost and alone in a pool had transformed into something I never could have imagined. I'd found love in the most unexpected place, with the most unexpected person. And in finding that love, I'd found myself. Claire squeezed my hand, and I looked up to find her watching me with soft eyes. What are you thinking about? About how much everything has changed, I said. About how scared I was at the beginning of summer, and how scared I am now, but in a completely different way. Good scared or bad scared? Both, I admitted. I'm scared of messing this up. Scared of not being enough. Scared of all the challenges we still have to face. But I'm also scared of how much I love you. How much you've changed me. How much I need this. That's the thing about love, Claire said softly. Real love is always terrifying, because when you give someone your heart, you're trusting them with the most fragile part of yourself. But the alternative, living without love, playing it safe, never taking the risk, that's even more terrifying. When did you get so wise? I asked, smiling through my tears. About 20 years too late, she said with a rueful laugh. But better late than never, right? Right. We stayed like that for a long time, wrapped up in each other, letting the weight of everything that had happened settle around us. This was our new normal. This was our truth. And whatever came next, we would face it together. As I drove home that night, I thought about the letter Claire had mentioned wanting to write me. Something to explain everything she felt, everything we'd been through. I thought about how I would keep that letter forever, a reminder of the summer that changed everything. But I also knew that our story wasn't meant to be contained in letters or words. It was meant to be lived, day by day, moment by moment, choice by choice. And I was ready to live it. Ready to love beyond the rules, beyond the fear, beyond anything that tried to tell me this wasn't right. Because it was right, for us, for now. For this moment in time where two people found each other against all odds and chose bravery over safety, truth over comfort, love over everything else. The summer sun was setting on the horizon, but for Claire and I, something new was just beginning to dawn. And I couldn't wait to see where it would take us. I know what you might be thinking. That this is complicated. That this is messy. That we broke too many rules and hurt too many people. And you're right. We did. But I also know this. I've never felt more alive. I've never felt more like myself. And for the first time in my life, I'm not apologizing for choosing what my heart wants over what everyone else thinks I should want. This is just the beginning of our story. I don't know where it leads. I don't know if it lasts forever or just for this season. I don't know if Sophie will fully forgive us, or if the world will ever understand. But I know that right now, in this moment, I'm choosing love. I'm choosing bravery. I'm choosing truth. And whatever happens next, I'll face it knowing I didn't hide. I didn't pretend. I didn't let fear make my choices. So to anyone watching this who's struggling with their own impossible love, who's afraid to choose what they really want, who's been told their truth is wrong, you're not alone. I see you. And I'm right here with you, figuring it out one day at a time. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever loved someone you weren't supposed to? Have you ever had to choose between your heart and everyone else's expectations? What would you do if you were in my shoes? Drop a comment below. Share your truth. Tell me your story. This is a safe space. No judgment, just honesty. And if this story touched something in you, if it made you feel less alone, hit that like button. Subscribe to Love Beyond Rules for more stories about love that doesn't follow the script. Click the notification bell so you don't miss what happens next in my journey with Claire. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's been afraid to be brave. Your story matters, your love matters, you matter. Until next time. Choose love, choose yourself, choose bravery. This is Love Beyond Rules. And remember, some of the best stories are the ones that were never supposed to happen.